My name is Jeff Lambert. As stated, I'm the Vice President of Data Solutions and Platforms at 8451. I'm an 8451 partner, and I sit on our engineering leadership team, which basically builds everything for our organization, and our ecosystem leadership team, which essentially builds platforms for everyone else to build over. The ecosystem team is all about building platforms over the top of various compute platforms like Hadoop or GCP or Azure. And their remit is to essentially make everyone's life easier to build on various technologies. In an Unravel context, I'm the key sponsor for the tool at 8451 at this time. So 8451, yes, you heard cool name. Also very easy when you're trying to come up with a company name. There's not a lot of trademarks or copyrights, a lot of different restrictions if you have a very unique name. So yes, but what are we? What are we? 8451 is the data and analytics company that sits behind Kroger, and we power a lot of analytical and scientific solutions centered around data within the Kroger universe. Our main focus is customer analytics. That's our heritage. That's where we started growing up. We wanted to understand how to develop loyalty for life for Kroger's customers and the CPGs that work with them. But we also, over time, have figured out how to be very effective at marketing analytics, targeted customer analytics around marketing of offers through all channels that Kroger can communicate to with customers. We work with most of Kroger's largest CPGs and many of the small and mid-sized CPGs that are out there in that world. And this gives you a little bit of an idea about what's the size of what we're dealing with and some of the particular areas of Kroger's business that we interoperate. You can see that we're also getting into in-stock and supply chain issues. So creating sciences to help with ensuring that the right products are in the right stores at the right times. COVID has obviously been a very interesting time for us regarding the supply chain and how to keep products on shelf. We have two main commercial products. One's called Stratum, which is a customer loyalty insight product that we create strategies with CPGs around. And then the other is Prism. So imagine CPGs have advertising budgets for anything as simple as coupons through price reductions and various channels that they can deliver those within. We understand the relevancy of the customer, the channel that they like to have those offers delivered through. And we understand the brands and the price points for the offers that they like most. And then we take these nominated offers and figure out how to actually allocate them to Kroger and the CPG's best customers. Technically, let's talk about that a little bit. We have a legacy SaaS and Exadata environment that is kind of our history. We are in the process of trying to reduce our investment in those particular technologies in favor of more open source technologies like Hadoop. So on-prem Hadoop, that's kind of where the Unravel story started for us. We have two production on-prem Hadoop clusters, and they were recently expanded upon, and that kind of plays into part of the story that I'll tell you about. And then we're also in the cloud, right? We're moving a large portion of our world into Azure and Databricks, and we have possibilities with Unravel. We have a proof of concept actually running in one of our Azure tenants to see what Unravel can do for us in that particular environment. And then we have a small presence in GCP that allows us to kind of do things in GCP when Azure doesn't make sense for us. So specifically about my journey on this, as I've gotten familiar with Unravel, you can see some of our overarching goals. These are a lot of the technical pieces that we were trying to solve for in the earliest of days to make sure that our Hadoop clusters were running at more optimal levels than they had been pre-Unravel. So we had done a POC and then licensed the software for one particular cluster, and then we were evaluating buying it for the other cluster when I stepped into this. So this is where my mandate came in. Basically, the mandate from our leadership team was, hey, we want you to go out there and figure out how to maximize 8451's ROI across all the major compute platforms that we're actually using. And then along the way, help us with deprecation goals around some of our legacy technologies. So the big thing, they want to squeeze the value out of those investments that we're making in on-prem. And then when you think about the cloud, we need to figure out how to manage and optimize our cloud spend so that we're not being frivolous with those investments. So first question I asked myself is, well, heck, how am I going to do that? So I investigated the current state, and we had a big problem going on in GCP. So I'm going to give you some context on this because it plays into how happy I was when I ran into Unravel later in the story. So in GCP, that was the first problem. My boss basically looked at me and he said, we're spending $1.2 million a month in GCP. Like, go figure out how to make that less. So we went out there, and we didn't have very much good tooling or technologies at that point in time. And we went into, I grabbed a few of our really good engineers, and we started putting together a homegrown solution, capturing a whole bunch of information around utilization and jobs. We had people leaving 100 node clusters up for the better part of 24 hours for no good reason. And we put a whole bunch of controls in place, but we had to do that all manually. There was no Unravel in GCP at that point in time. So we built all of that custom. And then 2 months later, where we found ourselves, we were only spending $400K a month, which was an obviously great reduction. So that was hugely successful. And the next thing that they asked me to do was to start looking at on-prem Hadoop, right? So my template's pretty consistent. I basically rang up Dan Fernier, who is Raj and Suresh's boss, and I said, okay, what are you guys doing? What do you got? How can we better understand this? And he said, hey, you should sit with these guys. And they gave me a demo of Unravel. And the first thing that hit me was, holy cow, like everything that we just built for GCP is already pre-built right here inside of Unravel. And they've got it all just sitting here perfectly for me. So at that point in time, they were able to then hook me up with some of the sales crew from Unravel and some of the technical folks. And we were able to actually go and see additional details around what was happening within the cluster. We were only in the one cluster, but it was impressive what we could see. And I'd just like to take a minute to thank our sales guy, Dan, the technical genius that's been helping us out, Wayne, and then Matt. He's been helping out in just everything around what we're doing. I would say that I've found these guys to be extremely knowledgeable, responsive, and every time that we were meeting with them, they would give me what I wanted, plus a little bit more, which was great. So the one thing that I had done is I'm going to switch over into I'm going to talk about an executive dashboard that Unravel was able to create for me that was really fascinating. The whole entire experience was wonderful for me because if you've been inside of the Unravel tool, let me flip over here. Tell me if you guys can still see this. Still looking good?
Yes, yep. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So Unravel was able to, they sat down with me on a Monday. I'm not even joking around on this, right? We sat down on a Monday, and I gave some Unravel guys some requirements for saying, hey, like when I'm in the tool, I can see a few things that work well for what you guys are trying to do. And I can download some information into CSVs, and I can kind of mess around with it for myself. But what I'd really love to see is I want to be able to select a date range. I want to be able to actually have some different group buys, and I want to be able to see the total amount of what for that time frame, what's happening on that cluster. And then I want to be able to see user level detail for what they're consuming for compute, in the form of vCores, memory, and read writes. So this is essentially what am I doing here? Like I'm basically looking for the heavy hitters that are out there on the cluster that are really putting it to the test. And I also want to use these things to basically try to understand how these things translate to actual cloud what cloud impacts as we think about and consider moving the load of these particular workloads from on-prem into cloud. So being able to actually, compute's not always like for like in these scenarios, but Unravel actually came and showed me a tool that actually helps with that too, a cloud migration tool, which was incredible. So that's another example of the plus one that they were able to bring to the asked them for a dashboard, and then they said, oh, well, if you're concerned about those things, here's this migration planning piece that actually works out. This is really impactful for me because what I do is I use this in concert with the active monitoring that we'll hear Suresh talk about later. I think, and so we identify areas that that are going to be potentially problematic for us. So I can come up here. They created this, and I'll tell you, they initially we sat down on Monday. I think they demoed this to me on Wednesday. I gave them some feedback about just the general usability of that first iteration. And by Friday, they had turned back around with a completely what you see here today. So in 5 days, I was amazed. I was probably one of the reasons that I was like, yeah, I'm all in on this because the turnaround and the response time from Unravel on it was great. So you get a date selector, nothing terribly fancy there. This is running on one of our clusters. We have it also installed on the other cluster. You can see here that for that time frame, we were only using 26% of the total vCore capacity and 24% of our memory capacity on the box. This is good, right? Because when I go back to my management and they say, I don't want to invest, I can clearly look at this over this time frame and say, yeah, this feels pretty good. 25% of the clusters in use right now. We're not going to need to make any kind of a capital investment for some time, and it sets management at ease. And then we use this and trend it over time to watch utilization, to know and understand when those different investment thresholds are going to be hit. So right now, this cluster is looking really good. No big problems. But one of the things that I like to do is to come over here and sort on the vCore hours and see who's terrorizing the cluster. So we have a few counts here, and then these where you see a letter followed by a series of numbers. Those are actual people, right? So you can see in this particular instance, we have one service account which is running that whole entire. It's essentially populating all the data that goes into that tool that I told you about called Stratum earlier. And the piece that's really interesting about this is since we've been able to actually increase the transparency of this, they're actually taking this service account, which they've lumped a whole bunch of things in, they're starting to break it apart, right? So that we can see even more granular levels of use and understanding. When you couple that together with the recommendation engine that the recommendations engines that Unravel brings around looking at specific jobs and then making recommendations on things as simple as memory settings or if you're going to use broadcast joins and what have you, it really allows for us to optimize jobs. And we also see the total utilization of the cluster go down while the utility or the outputs of the cluster are still remaining the same. So that's fantastic when we can get into that type of a situation. The other thing that's nice about this is way down at the bottom here, you can go ahead and download this stuff into CSVs, right? I'm an Excel junkie, so I asked for that. A lot of people are not Excel junkies. I don't have the querying skills that a lot of people on this particular call have, so I'm just willing to actually just brute force this stuff. But right now, what we're actually doing is the next step of this project is to start bringing these things together. So we will use Unravel as in the Unravel data API. We will basically call um, the same procedures that produce this report to essentially get that data and bring it over into an enterprise reporting solution, so that we have the ability to look at our managerial folks that either are controlling teams and the spend and use that takes place at a team level, all the way up to our financial leads to look at trended compute usage across these platforms, so that these individuals have information and data that they never had before about how we're actually using, who and what is actually being utilized, and at what levels. So the Unravel tool is basically fast tracked us to being able to actually get that project off the ground. And the team that I'm working with right now is actually working with Suresh and trying to actually get that data and pull it into that reporting tool. And at that point in time, it's really great because I can look and say Unravel just basically accelerated us, and it justifies the investments that we're making from a reporting standpoint alone. But that's not even like the real power of the tool. The real power of the tool comes from some of the recommendations that are going on. So I think the punchline to all that is this dashboard really helped me to get my bearings and to help make a case for what we were trying to do in this space around our on-prem Hadoop management. Um, let's see. So I'm just going to try and take a few more seconds here, and then I'm going to hand it over to Suresh. I think we've left time at the end for questions if you guys want to come back to me. I'm not really looking at Slack right now, to be honest, but I'm happy to take questions at the end. We learned about a few other things along the way as we went. This is the +1 information that I was talking about. We learned about the alerting processes and some of the actions that Suresh is going to tell you about later. The recommendations engine has obviously been something that we've been heavily involved in at the moment. Suresh, I tell him, hey, I might be a VP in the company, but I love seeing that stuff. So he includes me on everything. I'd say there's 2, 3, 4, 5 different things that he's detecting each day, and he's basically working with our users to, either immediately correct that action if it was just a problem, or if it's more of a habitual or consistent thing where a given job is being problematic, then he'll work with them to get them back in order. And then that migration to cloud tooling, is we're just now getting started with our Azure journey. And I think that's going to play big into our future as we try to educate our users on cloud loads on-prem and what they will mean in the cloud when we actually move them there. So we're very hopeful to see what that particular aspect of the Unravel tool brings to us. And then, like I said, because of this work, we expanded into the second production cluster. And we've done a POC with Databricks in Azure, which is just now really starting to take hold. And then I think I'll probably stop it here and then let Suresh kind of jump in. Let me go back and just make sure that yeah, so this was just a picture just in case the sharing didn't work or our instance happened to be down. So this is all good to go. I think, I'm going to kick it over here to Suresh, but I want to really thank the Unravel team that's been working with 8451. We've liked this so much that we're actually contemplating how we actually, we have peers, if you will, over at Kroger that have also shown some interest in what we might be able to do here. And so we're interested in potentially partnering with Kroger. We feel that strongly about what the tool's been able to give us at 8451 that we believe that that's even a possibility for our partnership. I think the piece that I'd like to say in closing on my section here is that I appreciate what Unravel's done. I appreciate their willingness to work with us. We were a little slow, or at least I was a little slow in some of the uptake in the earliest of days. They had patience but persistence, and they were able to actually really help me with my particular tasks, and then also been very supportive of what the work that Raj and Suresh are doing and driving for results on our behalf, right? So they've kicked in and rolled up sleeves with us on many times to help out. And that dashboard, the turnaround on that thing is just incredible. Like I've never had an expectation. I thought, man, this will take months to actually get to where this is. So that's my portion of this. I'm happy to take questions at the end after the other two guys have kind of talked through things.
So yeah, let me give my background a little bit about myself. I'm the lead engineer at the 8451 for database engineer. And until I joined the 8451, I was a technical lead for the offshore teams, especially in the China and India. And until I joined the cool company 8451. And before I joined, I was dedicated to Oracle technology, just database technology. But after I joined here, I got an opportunity to work on various technologies, starting from legacy to all the open source. And then a year ago, like I was asked to support this Hadoop. And then actually it's new to me completely, but Unravel is helping me in that journey really. So I should say that. And one more thing, yeah, before I delve into this environment, I just want, as Jeff said that like our key goals, like how we achieving the key goals with the help of Unravel, I will just go over that. Actually, we have like 5 environments at 8451 that mainly Hadoop. That is like 2 production environments and 3 development environments. And both of the production environments are always busy. And we are running with the Hadoop 516 version. And Unravel version, we are using the latest one, that is 461. So this is how Unravel is helping us out to run our Hadoop cluster efficiently. That is what I want to go over right now. And this is like Unravel. I'm giving, most of them are already aware of this Unravel, but I just want to give overview about this holistic view of Unravel, how that our Unravel users are using this before scheduling any jobs. Like usually they come here and just see the resources, how it is doing right now, and on what day and what time they are busy before scheduling the jobs. And so the heat map they always see. And that even like we use this Jupyter notebook regularly with, as Jeff alluded in our key goals, this visibility into the Jupyter notebook. So we schedule that. So we schedule to run every week, and we will find the top outliers here and see that we'll target them. Actually, if you see in this report, we'll see this top outlier here, and we will just target those applications and try to see if those whether we can improve that, whether we can speed up that application, or whether we can run those applications efficiently, helping us out to optimize their applications. And here there is like another one is like we are using frequently, that is inefficient applications. Like even Unravel is cool, actually it's providing the inefficient applications for the time frame, whatever we choose. Usually, right, we will choose like maybe a week or sometimes like days, and we will come here and focus on like Spark and see that like where we can improve, like which applications we can optimize based on these events, and we'll target them and try to optimize them. And actually, even I can give one example here. Like when we see here, if you see this one of the application and the flagged, that application flagged with the event, container sizing underutilized event. I was just giving some examples here, and we are doing more than that, but I'm just going over how we are leveraging the Unravel here to optimize our applications. And if you see this application, like when we are checking here, it is like when we see this is using only just 2 gig of maximum that executor memory was using, but it got allocated 85 gig. So most of the users, what they are doing is sometimes they will just forget to see the configuration. They will just copy one of the configuration file from their colleagues and co-workers, and then they just start using that, and without checking whether that is like appropriate configuration file or not. And so they end up using the more resources. And Unravel is helping us out to spot them out, to spot these applications. And then we are reaching out them and saying that you are utilizing like way more than the memory that is required. And so they are then started reducing their executor memory, like kind of 2 or 4, whatever is appropriate for that application. And that is so if you see, and even we were showing that how many containers it was running and how much allocated memory. And when we are just showing them that, suppose if you are using like if they're multiplying those containers with the executor memory, and they can see that how much memory they are over allocating. So and they are wasting a lot of resources on Hadoop. So they are realizing that, and then they started optimizing their apps. Just to go over one, and another one is like the resource contention issue. And one more thing, right? We have introduced a lot of auto actions, and basically, right, with auto actions, we are policing our the applications and to find the rogue users and rogue applications and resource contentions. And this is one of the alert when we are receiving, if we are giving this example here, these jobs are in pending state. That means cluster is completely hung and the jobs are keep failing. And this Unravel is helping us out. It's like just giving, not only just sending an alert, and when we just come here on Unravel UI, we could clearly see that why it is hung and why the jobs keeps failing. If you see, this is like completely occupied. Whatever memory, right, we have like around 26 terabyte being used. And we have spotted that application by clicking here. We see that this is one of the app that is using a lot of total all of the memory. So completely hugging all of the resources, and we immediately reaching them out and try to kill that applications. Then our business come back to the normal. And, and the another example I'm giving here, the rogue user, and we are also we implemented this auto action on the rogue user. Like what happened, sometimes one of the user is immediately just kicking off a lot of the jobs, and without even seeing that whether that would impact the cluster resources or not. And we are also spotting them with this auto action alert. If you see, this is like almost they are using around 4,457, because we have got around 5,000 or 6,000 cores available in that queue. And so, but they are using almost like 4,457, and which is causing a lot of issues to the cluster, and which is causing other jobs failing as well.
Yeah, one thing to add in here is that we're seeing a different behavior that's actually happening now too, which is that they're now reaching out to Suresh and to others to basically say, hey, I have to run something that's rather significant, and I know you're going to be watching me. Please, one, don't kill my job. And then two, is there a way that we can ensure that this isn't going to cause the cluster any kind of negative harm? So it's very interesting to see their behaviors change now that they know that we're watching.
Exactly. In other words, we are making them as a good citizens. So yeah, and here if you see, this is like we come here to the Unravel and see that like how many cores are being used in that in the queue, and we can just figure out that whether that is the real issue with the alert. Not only when we receive the alert, we'll come to the Unravel and see exactly how much memory it is allocated, how many cores it is grabbing that particular user, and then before approaching the user. And even like after they have changed that, before the config changes, the allocated vcores here, and after the like around, if you see like around 1,800 cores was allocated after the config changes. They have done like, it went down to 120. And another one, the cool one, like we introduced lately, this is inactive idle apps, because most of the time, like our folks using Jupyter Notebook, and by end of the day, always most of the time they keep forgetting to close their Jupyter Notebook, and they just left them running on the Jupyter Notebook, which is not causing a big issue to our Hadoop clusters because we have got so many resources. But at the edge node, wherever they are kicking off, that is causing some resource issues because edge node is like limited to some resources, and most of that our analysts are running those Jupyter notebooks from that edge node, and which is causing some other folks to run their jobs. So this inactive idle application alert really helping us out. And whenever they receive this alert, they are now like, okay, before it's reminding them to close their Jupyter notebook. And since we introduced initially, we used to get a lot of alerts, but now they are used to it, and now they are closing their Jupyter notebooks before they are leaving for the day. This is
This
really
is
helping
also,
us out.
oh, sorry, Suresh. This is also one place where we're working with Unravel's product management team to essentially, this is one thing that we did in GCP with the manual piece that we haven't necessarily been able to do inside of Unravel just yet, unless Suresh tells me that they've solved it already and I just don't know, which is we basically were monitoring for the idle sessions, especially with work from home. What we see is that people open up a cluster and then they basically, go walk away for lunch or who knows what. So what we did in GCP is we were basically pinging that, and if it hit certain thresholds where clearly there was no activity, we would essentially shut their session down. We called it an idle session killer. And we're working with Unravel to try and figure out if, one, they're interested in that functionality, and then secondarily is how to do that gracefully within the tool to set alerts and then have it actually kill those sessions when they're truly idle. That's the trick, though, making sure that they're truly idle. So we continue to work with Unravel's product management around that, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to get something worked out in a future release of the product.
Yeah, they have opened internally a case, so they are working on it. So that is good news for us. That's a good thing for us. So, and there is another one, application tuning with our Unravel thing. And this is, I just wanted to go over like how our data analysts and data scientists using Unravel and using their recommendations. Usually, right, one of the typical engineering job. This is for ETL cluster where they are running their apps. So usually, typically, they will just take in source data, perform transformations, and then do that work and writes the output into 4 partition levels. Usually, that job is taking around 20 minutes, and how they reduce it to like 12 minutes, something like that. I just wanted to go over, share that. And this is like they, after that, once they run that application and they come here and see that Unravel has provided 4 recommendations to improve the efficiency. And then they will see here, okay, the driver memory. So it is telling that Unravel is that we are using more driver memory, and we can speed up the app with increasing that executors from 20 to 40 and something like that, even shuffle partitions. So that if you can add some more shuffle partitions, you may see some speed up. You may speed up that application. So it is giving that recommendations. And next part also they are giving like, it's you, most of them you are aware of that, the efficiency part and how we can improve the efficiency for that app. And typically, if you see, this is unoptimized versus tuned. And from the duration, if I see that 22 minutes and we are reduced to 12 minutes. So we have saved almost 10 minutes, 50% improvement here. and we have changed that executors, but we did not change the driver memory, I think, because this is not big deal here. But executors, that plays a big part, right? So we have changed that executors, and we have changed that executor memory, and we have played around with some memory, added some more CPUs, and we have added some. Yeah, and one more thing, that bumped up auto broadcast threshold, that also played a big role here. That we have done that with this job, and we were able to reduce that time from 22 to 12, so 50%. It's a big improvement. So those our analysts are happy with these recommendations. So I just wanted to share with you guys. So finally, this is Unravel is basically, right, I can say that since I come from the database background, it is really helping us out, to me, to manage this Hadoop administration and as well as Spark application management. But one thing, even though although it is helping out, we are keep encountering the challenges because of this. You guys know that like the technologies are evolving every day, and so now we are moving towards Spark 3 and lot of Python packages, lot of like new various technologies, you name it. Yeah, we are using here at 8451. So yeah, we keep encountering the challenge, but the Unravel folks are really helping us out, and they are really working hard to help us out in this journey. And we have weekly health check calls with the customer success team, and we are bringing up all the issues that we are encountering, and then we are focusing, and then we are trying to resolve them. And they're really helping us out by addressing all the issues, as already Jeff alluded. So thanks to those folks. And even it would have been definitely difficult for me. I could definitely say that, especially since I'm coming from the database background, and I just started my Hadoop journey a year ago, and I was asked to support Hadoop a year ago, and then I just picked up, and Unravel really helped me to manage those Hadoop cluster. Not only Hadoop clusters, at least I have come same background, but when it comes to the Spark management, this Unravel is really helping me out to optimize their applications and to speed up their applications. So I just want to share that.
Yeah, and if we circle it back to what I was talking about earlier, all of these things, like it's death by a million paper cuts, right? With
Right.
many, if you have hundreds of users like we do, and they're all exhibiting average to poor behavior, the odds of us having to reinvest in Hadoop because we can't figure out how to make them more efficient goes way up. So when we can be more efficient about leveraging and using the stuff that the equipment that we have today, then we're better off, and we can invest those dollars that we're saving elsewhere, which makes everybody in our organization super happy. So telling these success stories to our leadership team, I package them up from time to time and give them an update, and you just see smiling faces, right? And then users in general are also the users in general are also given tooling that actually helps them to. They didn't have these things before, now they do, and so they can be more well informed if they take the effort. So now the biggest thing is making them take the effort. Now we're going to show you some stuff about solving the small files problem with Unravel. So take it away, guys.
Sure, thank you. And this is small files issues. Actually, yeah, before we launched Unravel here, we used to have these problems a lot. But after we launched, we are not seeing that. And also one more thing, also we added a lot of resources to the Hadoop cluster by adding some additional nodes. But even though we got on one day, all of a sudden lot of alerts that is filling up, not from the Unravel, from the Cloudera alert, and we are wondering what's going on. And since it is a data node, we thought that it is definitely an issue with related to the HDFS. And we were just looking at around that, and we found that there is a huge spike in our number of blocks that we found in the Cloudera, and we thought definitely it is an issue with the small files. Otherwise, no one would have added these many blocks all of a sudden on one day, around like Friday morning or Friday or Saturday morning. They added some lot of blocks, and we are not aware of that. If they are going to add some additional workload, they would have informed us, but no one informed us, and we were wondering something went wrong with their code. And Unravel is helped us out here to find that which user and which directory that filled up those millions of blocks. Around 77 millions of small files were added to the directory, and we just went there and see that which user, and then we approached that user to delete those files, and that user acknowledged that those files got created due to the code issue, and he deleted those files, and that released a lot of the pressure from our Hadoop data nodes. And basically, in nutshell, we want to say that here in this case, in the small files, Cloudera initially just helped to identify a problem at the cluster level with those alerts, and but Unravel is helped us to pinpoint. Just immediately, we just came here and we have scheduled this small file report every day, and we just come here in that small file report and just check that we just spotted immediately. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Yeah, that's all from my end. But at the end, I would say that Unravel is helping us out a lot here, not only just to improve our cluster efficiency, but also like made our users good citizens with auto actions. Thank you all. And now Raj will take over this.
So here's who I am. I work with Jeff, Suresh, and a few other great folks on my team, working on big data administration for the past few years, starting from RHEL, started as a system administrator, administered Oracle BDS. It was a pain, working on currently CDH and CDP. And I have like a greatly supportive team, both from the organization level and at my colleague level. So why are we here discussing about Unravel? So let's go there. Look at our current scenario. We'll be going to cloud sooner or later, or we're already on our way to cloud. We try to use Google. We are trying to get away from Google for the most part. We have a couple of products that we are still supporting it there, getting into Databricks environment, and starting to use Snowflake at a production scale as well. And currently on-prem, Hadoop, CDH, Hortonworks for NiFi, Spark, MapReduce, Yarn. So we are a bunch of tools. A smaller company, we have too many tools and with too many tools, you got too many people to support. So it's not like we are master of all, but we are, most of our team is like master of most tools. So with a smaller company where you have a little a smaller group of users, but who are really smart, you need to have a sysadmin who's going to support you all the time, because even developers need us for supporting. So why do we use Unravel? Because as Suresh already went over, we are going, users are allocating, causing bottlenecks for other users, and they are the same, causing resource allocations. And what's our problem? Yeah, when people can't get in, you just have to either move your applications or kill applications. And if you're familiar with Hadoop and the good old yarn memory or yarn move command, yarn application -move to queue, but what you don't want to do it on a daily basis, you can use Unravel for doing that. And I'm not a developer. I don't do development on a daily basis. I'm a sysadmin. You can use Unravel recommendations to see like, oh, you're allocating 20 gigs, but you're hardly using 2 gigs out of it. So why don't you just tune it? I don't have time for going back and learning Spark, but I can help you understand. Unravel help me understand like, okay, this is what it's actually using. So, and what it can do is like, it can also like give a user-based feedback, and then we can always give the training to the users based on that. Next, we're going to discuss about auto actions. So why are we discussing about auto actions is like, the way I liked Unravel in person is like, yes, I'm a busy guy. I have too many things. Like yeah, do I have time to go and build an API like Jeff and build something out and figure out something all day? No, I need to support multiple products. Sorry, Jeff, but yeah. So, but yeah, I don't want to reinvent that wheel that Jeff did already. So I am like trying to use the most out of the tool. So we built auto actions for emailing alerts, emailing users that are running applications for more than a specific period of time, and killing leftovers that Suresh already displayed, and moving applications as well. And we have a Stratum, a business application which is business critical, and we are trying to set auto actions for those as well, like setting a time frame. Like if my application is running for more than XYZ time frame, I'm just going to send an email to the respective team saying like, hey, your job is running more than your specified time. So do you want to have a look or what changed? And coming back to the end of my presentation, like time, why are we using Unravel? Like we saved a lot of time using Unravel, and time is money for most of us. Like with so many tools, like using our time effectively is the most important thing for us. And fast, Hadoop is fast, and I'm like on a uh, biased note saying like Hadoop is fast, whereas more companies are trying to still onboard Hadoop or just deprecate Hadoop as well. Like I don't want to waste my time or not fixing my MapReduce job or Spark job. I need to focus on something that's going to help me right now or in the future. So you can use Unravel's like auto actions to monitor and fix these repeating issues, or get some auto actions alerts, or kill those applications where you don't have to build something out of brand new. Spark present. We have Spark is a present, like in the present tense, like everyone needs to learn Spark. Spark is a new go-to tool for everyone and for every organization. So you need to learn Spark to help your developers. Like sometimes people say like you have to be a developer to understand what a developer is trying to do, or what, at least to try to fix their issue. So the DevOps is the new norm, right? Like you cannot be an ops guy and then sit there and then just like wait for something to fail and fix it. You have to be proactive to support them, and doing that will help both my team and the development team. So the development team can get the job done quicker, and my team can sit happily without nothing has to fail ever. And coming to the cloud, yeah, future cloud is the future, and most of the companies that are here already or maybe already on the cloud journey or already are on cloud. So what is the most important tool about Unravel is like they have this cloud migration tool where they can say like, okay, this is your current workload and this is what you are going to spend on cloud based on a different price tiers, or like storage accounts, or on Azure, or containers on Google Cloud. We are already evaluating Unravel for Databricks. It's been on a hold for a few obvious reasons, and we are trying to get those things lined up as well. Especially with cloud costs, I think Unravel could be a game changer for every one of us. And so we are trying to get back. Past is experience. Yes, you need your experience to build the present, and experiment. You need to build something, and then you have to experiment something with the present situation, and future is your expectation. So better user experience in your experiment to meet your expectation. I am right. I really like this code and really suits our like situation right now. And there we go. So before we start our questions, I would like to go back here, because like I saw the thing about someone is asking about Cloudera Manager, or like how do you like a native Cloudera Manager, or Unravel or Ambari. Like I managed all those environments, and trust me, I gave really hard time to everyone on Unravel saying like Cloudera Manager is my go-to tool. Like I don't want to use Unravel because I can close my eyes and navigate to Cloudera Manager, but like I've been working with Unravel for 2 years now. I have been trying to say like, okay, I can already find this. Give me something more that I cannot do on Cloudera Manager. So we like as a customer, you have to use the tool to its most effect. But as a customer, I feel like you have to give them feedback, positive feedback, saying like, yes, give me something more, give me something more. And that's what Jeff and I really like about Unravel is like whenever we try to push them, they always got back to us with a solution. And the other question is like user adoption. Like yes, we have a really tough time with user adoption, but like Unravel really stepped up their game. Like they came on site like pre-pandemic era, like they came here and then gave 2 training sessions for our DSRs who are like mostly like SQL based. They're very new to Spark environments, so they put their own time to come back to our on-site and then gave training sessions as well. Yeah, that's all for me. And I think Jeff, you had a question on Zoom. That Floyd was asking something about.
Yeah, the question was really experience with GCP and Azure, and any things to share there that'll be useful to the audience on the call.
Yeah, I think GCP is a little bit more primitive and unformed. But if you're a serious technologist, I think that it lends itself towards you being able to actually go out there and really get after it. Azure is a little bit more of a managed journey, if you will. And so, especially when you throw Databricks into the middle of it. And so what we find is that our hardcore deep scientists and technologists are quite comfortable working on GCP, but we actually had to build a whole bunch of custom framework over the top of it to, just do basic provisioning when people didn't want to have to worry about GCS storage buckets and things of that nature. So we had to put a lot of time and effort into creating things for our, call it middling users, right? Like folks that don't know how to make Spark sing the songbook or Java, they're not deep Java programmers as an example. So what we found is that Azure and Databricks offers your middle, your less technical analytical folks and developers for that matter, or maybe newer or underformed developers. It just allows for them to get started a little quicker on the Azure side. GCP has its advantages too. It's just Kroger created a strategic partnership with Azure or with Microsoft, and so we were on our journey to GCP, and Kroger switched that on us, which was it's been good in the end, but it was very painful to take at the first bits. So that's kind of where we're at. I can answer more questions if there's a follow-up.
Totally, Jeff. Thanks a lot for those those level of details. So in the interest of time, I'll just summarize all of these things into one question. If there was one thing you had to pick where the Unravel product could be much better and serve you and in your initiatives much better, what would that be? You have to pick one.
I could go all day long. Just kidding.
It might be like Raj might have a really good answer. I can give you my answer, which is right now we're moving to the cloud, and we're to that move to the cloud. So as we've started our users, they started with the latest version of Spark. They're using Spark 3, right? And right now, Unravel is only working with Spark 2.x, which most of the industry is out there doing right now because they're more established than we were when we started that journey. So for me, I'd really love to be able to deploy Unravel against our Spark 3.0 world up in Azure. We have some Spark 2.4 running there, but it's minor. So for me, that would be the one thing that I would ask Unravel to do from just a pure technical standpoint. Past that, I think just getting at helping us get at a deeper understanding of what's taking place within our Azure cloud environments and our Azure Databricks environments would be the ask, but I'm underformed in terms of my opinions because we have so much 3.0 running, 3.x running there that I just can't really say. Raj, do you have an answer to the question?
Sorry, you were asking me a question?
No. If you could ask Unravel to do one thing for you, I know you said many, but if you could ask for just one, what would it be?
No, I would always say about the Spark 3x on the future or on the future versions of Unravel, because I think that's where we are focusing right now, and that's where we should be focusing.
So yeah, my thing, I can ask one thing is that as efficiently. So we would like to optimize that applications as efficiently as possible. That is the one thing. So then our developers will be more happy and they will start using. So just they go to that recommendations and see the insights and use them.
Yeah, from a present perspective, Shivnath, I think we can do. I know this is like way more complicated than just talking over here, because like the recommendation engines, like one of the key complaints that my developers give is like, hey, your recommendations work for one time and then your recommendations don't work on the next day. I'm like, yes, I can understand it, because like, yes, the cluster workload is not same yesterday and today, boy. So you cannot have the same recommendation for the same days. But I think there still has to be some improvement where my users can rely on like, okay, Unravel gave me some random. They just have to feel more comfortable using those recommendations.
Some of those things are also on the way our developers structure code. So they actually, Unravel is going to get really good at giving recommendations when you've modularized the code into steps, right? And broken it apart into these major steps. So if you're doing a big data operation that's really heavy on I/O in step one, and then you're doing something that's much more CPU intensive, a whole bunch of calculations and what have you in step two, and you've got those both together in one job. Unravel is going to try and optimize for the job, right? Not necessarily these two components that sit inside the job. So part of that's on us to work with our developers to modularize those things. Part of it is, like an ask to Unravel in that case could be, well, could the application figure out how to detect and chunk those things up and then even make a recommendation to break the job apart, right? Or going even further, is there a way that inside of what we're doing, is there, and I'm not technical enough to be able to understand this, but is there ways that we could, without breaking the job apart, maybe do different steps inside of the code itself? So detection is probably like the place to start there, and then working with people to determine how to actually evolve that becomes another potential step. But I will say that Unravel knows about those requests, and they're actively working it. It's not like that's not new news to them. Everything that we just said, they're also proactively trying to look after those things on our behalf. So we feel good that they're going to come through over time, reasonable amounts of time with updated product functionality that'll help us solve those problems that we just brought up.
Ajay, Suresh, Jeff, thank you so much for sharing all of those insights over here. The questions keep coming, but we're running a little bit short on time. So if you're part of the Slack channel, we can take it there. It'll be good for all of us to get connected over there with all of our peers